Hello, I'd like to talk to you about how pay-as-you-go financing of Social Security works. So let's assume we have an individual right here. He's young, he's making $250. Next, in year two, he's going to be middle-aged, and in year three, he's going to be retired, and then we'll have somebody else start out. So right now we have one young person, one middle-aged person, and one retired person. So we're going to assume this is before Social Security. And so because it's before Social Security, they're not being taxed. Eventually they'll be taxed, we'll say at 10%. So in this case, it's going to be zero. In fact, let's just do it. Let's just put in a zero here because he's not being taxed, and a zero here. He's not being taxed. And without Social Security, the retired person doesn't get any income from Social Security. And actually, we can leave that one off. So there's a retired person with no income. Next, now let's say that we have Social Security. I'm also going to assume a growth rate is 200%. So in decimal terms, 200% is 2. So let's just take 250 times our growth rate of 2. And so obviously it's just doubled. And then same thing here, 250 times a growth rate of 2 is 500. So in this case, well, we could just do it. That is pretty easy since we're just doubling each time. Double 500, 1,000, double 1,000. Hopefully that's equal to 2,000. Double 2,000, that's pretty close to 4,000. So 100. So in this case, we are doubling the output each time. So 250, 500. Also for this guy, 1,000. Then 2,000 and 4,000. So we have a much bigger economic growth than we would normally have. But notice we're looking at our years are kind of time periods. Each year the person grows from young to middle age to retired. So this person now this person went from 250 earnings, now middle age he's going to earn 500, then retired we're going to assume he earns no income. And so in this case, retired income is just going to be the two amounts that the person gets from Social Security. Well, we said it's going to be 10%. So 0.1 times, 0.1 for 10% times 500 is $50. And likewise down here, 500 times 0.1 going to be the $50. Now this person is going to get $50 from the first person and $50 from the second person. So $50 from the young person and $50 from the middle age goes to the retired person for $100. Well, that's pretty good for that middle-aged person because that middle-aged person right here didn't pay anything into Social Security. Now he gets $100. That is a great rate of return. So the startup generation gets a great rate of return. Pretty lucky. Now, what happens later on? Well, in this case, we have, again, 10% times that, and 10% times 1,000 is 100. Add those two up, and we get what? Add 100 plus 100. Amazingly enough, $200. It's amazing what you can do when you can add. And then if we take 10% of 2,000, it's going to be 200, but let's do it anyway. 0.1 times that. And we, as some of you are pointing out, I can just pull it over for the next case and pull these over for these cases. So in each case, very easy way with 10%, just move the decimal place over one place. Now notice what's happening. In fact, let's look at this growth rate. So people's incomes are doubling. They're taking 10% out. And each period, the amount taken out doubles, but that's okay because it's just the income doubled and the amount going to the retired person doubled each time. So the retired person was making nothing because there was no Social Security, and then 100, 200, 400, and 800. This is assuming Social Security has no effect on the growth rate of the economy. In other words, really what the retired person is doing is sharing in the growth rate of the economy, because with the taxes, you're just taking out part of it, and taxes can grow with the growth rate of the economy. So richer economies can give more to people who are retired. Also notice that for the first, this original retired person didn't earn anything, or didn't get anything from Social Security, I should say. Second person got $100, but he didn't have to pay anything in. This young person didn't pay anything in the first period. Then he had to pay in $50 in the second period, but then got $200 in the third period. Well, he's better off because he didn't have to pay anything in the first period. So this first person here, this person who's middle-aged and then retired when the Social Security started, had the best deal because he didn't have to pay much in. The young person who started before Social Security also made a pretty good rate of return. But then people start living in the system their whole lives. And yes, the amount of money doubles, but that's probably about what they could make if they saved the same amount on a private market. In fact, if the private market did better, they probably would have done better on a private market. But to reverse this, some generation, it's going to be the opposite case, where the first generations were benefited if you try to make it so that it's not a pay-as-you-go system, so that people save for their own retirement. Well, somebody's going to have to pay for current retirees plus their own retirement, so it's not going to be as lucrative for them. So that's how Social Security works, with a pay-as-you-go system. Let's look over here. Let's assume we have no Social Security, and then look at with Social Security. And notice, it's a pay-as-you-go system, so less money is being saved. Well, what would happen if the growth rate went from doubling every year to just a reduction of 1.9, growth rate of 1.9? So in this case, let's do it. The top one's going to be very similar to what we just did. We're just going to take the 250 and double it each year. So multiply it by 2, 500, and so each one we double, just like what we did before. This one we're going to double likewise times 2, and every year we're going to double it, just like before. And in this case, just like before, well, a little bit different here. We're going to make it so these people are saving for retirement. So in this case, we're going to assume everybody takes 10%, 0.1, times the 250. This is without Social Security. People are going to be saving 10% of their income. And in this case, the retired person, unlike before, is not 0, but let's assume that this person saved what he did before, so it comes out to be $50 there. And in this case, people save, it grows at twice the rate of growth of the economy. And so this person, we don't see it off, but when he was young and middle-aged, he saved, it grew, and it came out to be about the equivalent of the 25 plus the 25. And so in this case, let's see how so each time they take 10%, 50, so 100, 200, 400. And let's just pull that over. So 10% of 500 is 50, 10% of 1,000 is 100. And in this case, same thing. 10% of 500 is 50. These people saved earlier in their lives. And so this person, so here's the middle-aged person, invested 25. When he was young, he invested some too. And so this is going to be basically, it's going to be the same thing as before with Social Security, except this case we have savings. So 50 plus 50 is 100, then 200. And so this person also, with the growth rate of the economy, is able to share in that. So that is the retired person, 400 here, 800 here. But what happens if we have Social Security now, and we have 10%? Everything's the same, except the economy grows slower. It's a pay-as-you-go system. Money coming out isn't saved for your own retirement years later, making it available to build new factories and roads and other things. Now it's going to the current retirees who are going to consume it. And so the overall savings rate goes down. Well, if it should imply that if there's less savings available, the growth rate of the economy might be slightly lower. So I don't want to make this like a 1 or half as much, so let's just decrease it from 2 to 1.9. So 250 times 1.9 goes to 475, and then 475 at 1.9 grows to 902.50. Then that grows to $1,714.75. Notice each time, so I'm taking 902. In fact, let's just type that in there. I'm taking 902 times 1.9, and then I'm going to take the previous amount, have it grow at 1.9, and it goes 3258.03. Same thing here. Take that amount times 1.9, grows to 475, times 1.9, grows to 902.50, grows to $1,714.75, and lastly, let's have it grow slightly slower. So now, instead of on the fifth time period, instead of 4,000, we have $3,258. So the economy, so people are poor. The young person is poor. The middle-aged person is poor. Let's see what happens to our retired person. So in this case, we take 10% in each case, times 0.1. It's 25. .1. And so in each case, we're going to move it over. That is 10%. So we just have to move the decimal place over one place. So, oops, is that? Yeah, so instead of 475, $47.50. Now, and in this case, I'm going to assume that actually we're going to have this person's able to get the 25 in the first period. Oops, not times. We want to add them, don't we? So he gets $50, just like before, but he didn't have to pay anything in. Then this person, instead of getting $100, if savings hadn't been reduced and we had the same growth rate, this person gets 95 for the retiree. But he's still doing pretty well because this retiree only paid in when he's middle-aged, and then this retiree had to pay in when he was young, middle-aged, and old, but growth rate's slower. So he would have had $200 if the growth rate had been higher, but now he only gets $180.50. Now this person, again, we add in the $171, and okay, we're doing fractions of pennies, so but we'll still do it that way. So approximately $342.95 instead of $400. And in the last period that we're looking at, $325 and 80 cents. We could round, but I'm going to do it just this way. And instead of $800, this person gets $651.60, approximately 61 cents, isn't that, for this retired person? So because of the, over years and years, because of slightly slower growth rate, what is this, almost $150 less, lower income than he would have had if the growth in Social Security had been at the previous higher rate. Now obviously the higher the growth rate, the bigger effect, but the longer periods of time, we're talking about not just single years here, we're talking about people moving from young to middle-aged to retired. That's fairly long periods, and if the economy grows at 2% per year every 35 years, it's roughly 35 years, it's going to be doubling. And so we could see effects fairly similar to this over periods of time. So, and this, let me get rid of this growth rate. Growth rate wasn't 2 down here, it was 1.9. So that's one of the things that Social Security affect, the distribution. And, people who are retired didn't have the income that they would have had if they saved the same amount when they were younger and consumed it when they retired. Thank you.